everybody. I'm Carly Finke. This is my dad, Rodney Finke. We just wanted to hop on here and kind of talk about what we got planned for this winter and going into next year. They have started up a YouTube channel, Yielding Generations. I'll have him explain kind of what's going on, but they also have a Facebook and Instagram, which we will also be posting on there about the YouTube, which is to hopefully come this winter.
So we started out last year, or actually this spring. Chris Weaver and I have known each other for quite a few years, and with his agronomic background and mine, we have put together Yielding Generations. We will basically be going over what family members do and how they all interact amongst each other. I'm a fifth generation farmer in Columbus, Indiana, and Chris is a sixth generation farmer in Finksburg, Maryland. So join us on our YouTube channel. We're combining beans right now in Columbus, Indiana, and we're going to be giving a lot of information on bean trials, corn trials. We use a lot of Concept Agritech product, Meristem and Locust Ag, and we'll just be coming to you throughout the year and see if you can't learn a few things, and maybe we'll learn a few things off you guys. So hope to see you. Take care. Okay, here with Joe Finke, and this is part of Yielding Generations, and just going to ask him a few questions just to give you a little brief background on kind of the Finke family and where we started. Technically, we started in Minden, Germany. My great-great-grandfather was born in 1840, and he came over in 1853 with two of his siblings, two younger sisters. So at 13, he came over to the United States. They actually landed somewhere in Cincinnati and then moved over to Columbus, Indiana, somewhere after that. So I'm going to ask Dad a few questions here, and Mom's actually sitting on the other side of the couch. We'll get her take on a few things as well. So Dad, tell us your age and where you were born and all that good stuff.
Okay, Joe Finke, I'm 84. I was born in Columbus, Indiana. Well, north of Columbus, really, but lived in north of Columbus all my life on the same farm my dad started out on. And my dad and mom got married April of 1921. So they started out in the home that we live in right now, and but things have changed a little bit. But so I've lived along this river bottoms all my life, and was able to farm all my life with my dad and parents, and now my wife and family.
So your grandpa and his family lived across the river.
Yes, my grandpa and grandma. I was actually a year and a half old when my grandfather had passed away. So I didn't really get a chance to know them.
Right. And so in 1921, Walter, my dad's dad, was married to Katie Finke, Catherine Finke, and they got married and moved to this current home in 1921. And then they had how many kids, Dad?
Okay, I got in our family there are 7 boys and 2 girls in Mom and Dad's family. So we all grew up, of course, right here on the farm. Our dad bought ground around this area, and we've all lived on this same acreage and bottom land all our lives.
On to the farming aspect. You started farming. Tell us your first piece of equipment that you had.
Okay, in 1960, we had a M tractor, 3 bottom plow, a 10-foot disc, and a drag to pull behind the disc. You might say that's about all we had. And we had a 4-row planter.
What type of planter was
It
it?
was there a 694?
I don't know the
Let's
numbers.
see.
Would it have been an international?
No, it was John Deere.
Oh, John
It
Deere.
was John Deere planter. Yeah, we did have a John Deere.
Okay.
But it was a 4-row, 38-inch row
Okay.
before we went down to 30.
And we still have the M tractor to date in the shop. So it needs some paint, but it would fire up right now if we wanted it to run. So that's kind of neat to have that 1952 M still here. Going on to more of the farm side, what do you think is one of the biggest changes? I know your brothers farmed with horses and then moved to equipment after World War II. What do you think as far as fertility or any other changes in like the first, say, 25 years you farmed? What, maybe hybrids or something else that was kind of important?
Well, I can remember when I first started farming, we had I don't know if you want to go into hybrids or not, but we planted Funks G, and we had a Funks G12, I think it was, hybrid. But at that time in the 60s, we were making 75 to 80 bushels the acre, maybe, and of course we was ear corn. We didn't have any shell corn at that time. We didn't, maybe some people did, but we didn't. So,
What would the soybean yield have been?
30, 35 probably in that neighborhood. But back then, there was still a lot of people using soybean for hay. They wasn't really compounding.
It wasn't for a grain crop,
wasn't
it was for
grain.
feed.
Yeah, for feed.
Tying in the grain, you milked from when to when?
Okay, I milked when we first started in 1960 to 82. And let's see.
How many did you milk?
Well, we got up to into the 40s, but we just had stanchion barns, and it was.
So you quit the dairy in 82. Then we had beef cows for a few years. Probably had those how many years, Dad?
I'd say 12 to 15, didn't we? Something like that, yeah.
So after that, then we had this newfangled thing come along called irrigation. And we started ripping out fence rows and the like. And when was the first year you put in irrigation?
Well, we put it in 96, but I wasn't as smart as my neighbors. We had one neighbor that drove by our house. He put it in 82. And I kept asking him why he didn't stop and tell me about that. But he said, he didn't want to embarrass me, I imagine. But we put in, first one in 96, and then we put in, not one every year, but as soon as we could find a spot or clear a spot, we put in another one. So after the first one, it was just, there was no brainer. I mean, it increased our yield so much, we had to.
So input wise and thinking back, do you have any idea what you would have had an input on maybe fertilizer or corn, what a hybrid would have cost when you started out?
Oh, when I started out, I can tell you it was $10 or $12 a bag. Well, it was a bushel at that time, $10 or $12 for the seed. Now it's
So you know what we pay now is around 300.
you can get a couple of grains for 10 or 12.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you think we've done the last 10 years on fertility or other things that we do? I know you know what we do, but if you're walking the lane and you say, boy, I'm glad we did that, or kind of a parting thought on, what we've done.
Well, of course, we started putting nitrogen on quite a bit in the 60s, wasn't it, I think, or late 50s. My dad probably did. But then, we used to just think of the nitrogen, phosphate, and potash. But now you got to think so much about the minor elements and the, the sulfurs, the zincs, and everything. So, and then feeding the plant foliarly, and
Yep.
everything. So, it's a big change. That's the reason I'm letting Ronnie take care of it.
He likes to run the combine and just look at the yield monitor. That's what he likes to do. That's his big enjoyment.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask my mom to move over. Dad, you just stay there. Mom, you just go. There you go. So this is Dottie Finke, Dorothy Finke, or as the grandkids call her, Nana. But Mom, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. So you were born and raised in Columbus in the city, and tell us what your first thoughts. So if you don't know our lane, we live on a dead end road, and it's all river bottom to the west, and it's upper ground to the east. What was your first thought when you had to come down the lane and it was all raised up and the lane was real narrow?
Well, I was a city girl, and I absolutely knew nothing about the farm. And so it was, I was working at Cummins. I was working in the office at Cummins. And so it was kind of a big transition for me. And that's kind of mild, but I guess the biggest thing was I had cooked some when I was at home, and I love to bake, but I never had 5 men sitting around the table to feed. And so when we were making hay, or when we were,
Silage.
whatever it was, because they shared equipment to begin with, so they went from one of his brother's farms to another. And so I'd say that was the biggest transition that I had to make, I did a lot of cooking.
When did you retire and just stay home with the kids? When Jeff was born?
Okay, I worked for 5 years, the first 5 years that we were married. I was working in the office, and his mother, I'll have to say that his mother during the day, she was on the weekends is when I did a lot of my cooking, because when I was at work, she was feeding these guys. And so when I quit, then that's when I started cooking more and more.
After you got done cooking, what would you go on to next? I know Grandma always had a huge garden.
Right.
And so you guys would can and
Yes.
and do.
Yes.
Give us a little bit what
Okay.
that would be like.
That was another a change in my life. I been in the city. We just had a little patch of a garden in our yard. But when came out here, it was another story about canning.
So basically, they farmed both sides of one road. On the other road, 150, and I remember the garden, the potato patch. It was large, and we farmed the potato patch with an H and dug them up with an H. So that tells you it wasn't a small one.
It was kind of like truck farming.
Yeah, but we had such a large Finke family. That's what we had to do. So, so the biggest change probably was when Dad and his brother amicably went their separate ways, and Mom's cooking went to just us boys and Dawn, and then that turned into a little easier job for her. So, one other question: would you change living in the city versus living in the country now?
Absolutely not. No, I go into town and I think these houses are so close together. How did I ever cope with that? Because now it just looks. Well, we're on a dead end road, as he said. So the closest neighbor would be maybe a half a mile away, probably.
Yeah. So that's straight from a city gal.
That's right.
80, and Mom, how old are you? You were
I'm
born?
82.
82.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
is there anything else you guys would like to say in parting thoughts?
No, I wouldn't do anything any different than I
No,
did.
it's been a great life.
Yeah, it's good. Very good.
Well, appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.